Prof, if you can hear me, good morning and thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Very well. I'm grateful. So, first of all, 2 days national dialogue on our economy ended yesterday. Your initial reactions about the entire event and then how it went?
Well, by the grace of God, the entire event went on well. What we planned for day one was successfully executed. What we planned for day two was successfully executed. Day one was graced by the keynote address by the president, and the vice president was also in session. Day two was closed by the vice president of the republic. The arrangement provided a high-level dialogue where we feature some of the ministers in critical areas and the governor of the Bank of Ghana. They highlighted some heartwarming issues that going forward will characterize their work, especially we are now going to see a more transparent approach to determining monetary policy in the country. In the past I stated that if you go to court, the judges write their reasons why they arrive at a decision. And in some jurisdictions, members of the Monetary Policy Committee provide their reasonings in writing. And then it is published or read before the decision is made. That's as it's done in the courts. So we need to get to that level of transparency. And the governor announced that kind of transparency yesterday. And then again, we have been talking about collaboration in among the sector players in managing our economy. That matter also came up strongly, where there will be twice interaction with the private sector, so that they are carrying on the back of the decisions that are made, and that's what is happening within the space of the Bank of Ghana and the rest. So those were heartwarming issues. Again, we also saw the finance minister emphasizing that some of the issues that we have raised will feature in the budget. The same thing coming from Agri Minister, and then the Trade Minister was very fantastic. Her engagement with the people, she articulated the issues that she will be addressing. So I think it was a good demonstration of participation, commitment, and willingness to implement the suggestions.
Well articulated, but for many Ghanaians who were not participants of the dialogue, I mean, what are the major outcomes that they should look out for in anticipation of the national budget as it comes up next week?
Well, I think the budget will clearly address issues of food inflation, the roadmap to restoring food inflation to acceptable level, how to make the VAT more flexible, more responsive, and attract compliance will be addressed. And then I know that some of the taxes will be aligned. So we will see agriculture, promoting agriculture in a manner that interests everybody, the young people, people in the urban areas will all be interested in agriculture one way or the other. There will be efficient spending in agriculture, as the minister promised yesterday, because of the kind of alignment that he is doing, so that the little that we get to spend on agriculture is productively spent.
Prof, I know you touched on the fact that, I mean, moving forward, there's going to be a lot of transparency when it comes to formulating monetary policy. But for those Ghanaians who are within the trading sector, they are looking forward to how, I mean, the currency will be stabilized, and then cost of credit, I mean, will be on the minimal, so to speak, to be able to, I mean, secure credit and then expand their businesses. And so for those in industry and for those in trading, I mean, what are they to look forward to in the coming days after this particular dialogue in terms of inflation, in terms of currency, the exchange rate, and all of that?
I think you know that those matters, they are not, resolved within days. The interest rate is very uphill. Inflation is uphill. Exchange rate is somehow stable, but we need to protect that stability. We are now seeing a drop in the treasury bill rate that is good, but we know that there are risks to that. There are two risks to that. Number one, we do not have alternative in the debt market currently. So people have only one choice, buy treasury bills. But you could also see that institutions who have been investing have huge money in their portfolio, but they cannot be releasing all for treasury bill. They need alternative, longer-term investment instruments. That is not readily available now. So we need to work assiduously to ensure that we start introducing longer-term instruments like longer-term bonds, 2 years, 3 years, 5-year bond into the domestic market, so that people can allocate their funds across TB rates and then or other instruments. Then again, you want to be careful so that this drop in treasury bill rates do not incentivize investors to shift to buying currency. That will begin to put pressure on the currency. So all those things will have to be managed in a way to create the stability. But the medium-term expectation is that decisions that are to be taken within the macroeconomic space will gradually lower the interest rate, will gradually lower inflation, and then bring more stability in the exchange rate. So that is the assurance. And the one assurance is that economic engagement must be continuous. So there is more engagement with the taxpayer community. There will be more engagement with the private sector community, so that some of the rigidity that they complain about can be looked at to create efficiency in the system. So we are just started, and I believe that progressively we will be making successes that will cumulatively be reasonable for the economy.
Very well. But Prof, wrapping it up with you, I mean, earlier on you made mention of the fact that a lot of the taxes are going to be aligned per the resolution or the recommendations that may come as a result of this particular dialogue. Again, we know that currently, as we face, the capital market is closed on us. We cannot go outside and then do some level of borrowing. And so how are we looking at revenue generation to be able to shore up the government's flagship programs? How do we generate more revenue, I mean, to be able to do a lot of the projects we anticipate going forward?
Well, revenue generation was key on the discussion. And some solutions have been put in place, including taking away certain taxes. Because you see, the idea is that when you take away certain taxes that are inhibiting businesses, you free them to perform better and pay better. So that is the idea. for which some of those taxes will be aligned to free the people in the space so that they can work with those monies and pay better taxes for the country. You see, what is happening is that we have heaped a lot of taxes on the taxpayers. That is making them resistant. What I mean is that is making compliance weaker. So you need to free those things to increase compliance. When compliance is increased, then the revenue will come. Then in addition to that, you also need to be looking at alternative financing mode. They have talked about some rigidities and constraints within the PPP law. That is not allowing the private sector to deploy that tool effectively. And when those rigidities are taken away, it may allow the private sector to support government through alternative financing that will not be resident on the balance sheet of the state to dovetail into calculating our total revenue and our debt to GDP ratio, which is a benchmark of sort of. And then again, there was introduction already in the NDC manifesto. They talk about becoming a member of an Islamic Development Bank to take advantage of those development financing. Then they also talk about introducing Islamic financial products to also bring in some financing that can finance mainly infrastructure. So yesterday that matter also came up again. It was highlighted that we need to explore alternative financing, including Islamic finance, to sort of provide alternative ways of financing infrastructure in the country.
Very well. I know that, we are doing this just to, formulate some homegrown policies. But again, corruption was one of the topical issues together with infrastructural development and how best we can position. Now, what do we know or what are we going to do about the leakages within the system and the fight against corruption whilst we tighten the belt?
So the leakages and then the ways I've talked about that from the perspective of tax administration. The second important aspect of wastage and leakages was about procurement. The dialogue concluded that procurement was not effectively handled in cocoa boards. Procurement was not effectively handled in ECG. So procurement is a big problem around. And then if we want to limit the pain that go through procurement, then it means that we need to take a hold on procurement fraud and mismanagement. So that is a key task that will have to be dealt with. If that is done, especially integrating more IT solutions in the procurement process, will help us a lot. And if that happens, a lot of resources will be free for development.
Finally, before I let you,
then on the front of corruption again,
yes,
there was a suggestion that some anti-corruption agencies will have to mainstream and support it to do their work. So the way you fashion your anti-corruption and finance them will determine the commitment they place on fighting corruption. So all those matters came up. Infrastructure and structural reforms were another important areas. And the structural reforms actually focus on cocoa board, focus on energy sector, ECG. And that is the area area that we have to operate very well to ensure that those problems there are taken away. ESLA is supposed to be coming to an end. There was a suggestion as to whether we should elongate the period of ESLA to address the problem in a more transparent manner or not. So that one is also under consideration. Infrastructure is a problem for the country. The deficit is wide across the sectors.
Okay.
Education, health, road, rail, IT infrastructure. If you look at the country right now, we are not connecting to internet in the most efficient manner. All these things need IT infrastructure to be put in place to accelerate that.
Okay.
So all those things have been identified to deal with them.
I mean, all of these are very deep thought, but you've been part of the team that put this whole event together. How about those Ghanaians who are of the belief that, I mean, these are part of mere rhetoric and that nothing is going to really change? We've witnessed that of what transpired during the Senchi consensus, yet we ran back to the IMF. And so this time round, what are the commitment levels to ensuring that, I mean, some of these major decisions that were taken at the dialogue will be duly implemented?
I think Ghanaians enjoy freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So it is normal that you will see some Ghanaians will not have faith in whatever is going on in the state. In fact, some Ghanaians who don't even care about what goes on in the state. So that one is given. But I can tell you the majority of Ghanaians follow through. They are glad about what happened in the past 2 days. They were happy about how the whole thing were calibrated and how ministers came up to demonstrate the feedback to all of us and what they are going to do going forward. So Ghanaians are generally happy. What if I'm in their shoes, I will be asking is that how do we ensure that all these things are implemented?
Exactly.
When they are implemented, how do we know? That is the reason why we provided the communique, number one. So that communique will be serving as a guide. So the finance minister says some of the things will be going into the budget. So these are implementation will start the whole of this year. People will hear those things and be monitoring whether indeed finance minister will factor some of those things in the budget and then implement them. So you are bringing engagement with the citizens and monitoring what is happening in the implementation. Then again, you had the director, the one in.
Oh, very unfortunate, but I think we've gotten enough from Professor John Gachi, Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, member of the committee, one more put together, the National Economic Dialogue.